Welcome to the Sports on Tap NEO High School Football Show. Be sure to join the conversation by liking us on Facebook and following us on Twitter at SOT Podcast. Use the hashtag SOT HSF. Here are your hosts, Rob Trump, Josh Jeffy, Ed Dick, and Sean Duffy.
And welcome to Sports on Tap. It's our state semifinals Ohio High School football show here on Sports on Tap. I'm Rob Trump. We have Josh Jeffy, Ed Dick, Sean Duffy live from Studio J. If you want to get involved with the show, it's at SOT Podcast on Twitter. Go to sportsontappodcast.com where we have stories and all kinds of standings and updates there. And if you want to listen to all of our archive shows, you can go to our YouTube channel where we have all of our shows archived with some interviews and all kinds of good stuff there as well. We're on Instagram as well and Facebook, so all kinds of different places to find us. But, guys, again, the season continues on.
2 weeks left. It's amazing.
1 week.
1 week. 2 shows left, and it's amazing how far we've come. Feels like just, yesterday. The whole cliche, just yesterday, we started this thing in August, and now we are down to the state championship games.
I mean, it's a lot of great games this last week. Sad to see some teams go. I think overall, it was a good year really for a lot of our teams. But, when you get down to this point in the year, you're just going to face the best of the best. I mean, that's all there is to say. You're going to get, teams that have been there and done that, and some teams that haven't. But experience plays a factor. There's no doubt about that. But, we'll see what happens as we move past the state semifinals. Once we tell you some of the matchups and, we have one recap left for the Avon Eagles who faced Akron Archbishop Hoban, the Knights in Division II, Region 6. And, what can we say, really? Avon had a great season this year, but, we'll give you that recap here shortly. But, guys, any thoughts on some of the games you saw this week as we move forward? We'll tell people the matchups after the Avon recap here and moving forward.
I think we saw, even in this round, in some divisions there is a very, very high talent discrepancy. It doesn't really matter how far you get into these playoffs. You just come across some teams that are just that much more dominant than their opponents are, no matter whether you're in the semifinals, regional finals. You may even come across that in the state finals, which we're going to talk about here shortly. One local team specifically had a pretty good run up until this point, and as we have discussed in the weeks leading up to this, I think Sean actually has it pulled up. They had opportunity. You have to cash in on your opportunities, and if you don't, and you continue to give your opponents extra possessions, it comes back and bites you, and it just gets exponentially more against you the longer you go in these playoff runs, and we saw that again happen this week with some of the teams that we don't normally cover, but nonetheless, it's a major point of emphasis that teams need to focus on this late in the rounds.
Yeah, I mean, you look at a lot of these scores, and I think you're right on the money there, Ed. They're maybe divisions probably 1 through 3, a little bit competitive, so to speak, for the most part. There's a couple outliers there, but yeah, as you go down the divisions, you can really see the cream kind of separate itself, even at the state semifinal level, because again, this is for a lot of teams. This is as far as they've ever been. I mean, we're seeing some of the local hands that are there. Marion local, Maria Stein, Marion local, Coldwater. Those are all teams that are used to being there. But for some teams, this is as far as they get, and that stage becomes too big, or what's been working all year doesn't work against the team that they don't really have a lot of tape on. And from all of us who played this game and understood, is that the deeper you go into this playoff run, the more unfamiliar the opponent becomes. In the regionals, you kind of have an idea of what everybody's doing. You have enough tape. You can kind of you know how your scheme goes against teams like that because there's that familiarity. You make it to the state semifinals, and you could be playing a team, one that you never even heard of. I mean, some of these teams probably never even heard of one another until they looked on themselves on the playoff bracket. So let alone you may have been playing defenses that, or playing as a defense, you've been playing an offense that runs spread, and that's been spread every other game, or a team that's running power I. Now all of a sudden you got a triple option team coming at you, and triple option is one of the hardest things to defend when you know it's coming, when you only have a week to prepare. Same thing on the other end for a team that's used to ball control and things like that. A team that you may have a 5-minute drive, but a team may put together a 42-second scoring drive, and you're back. You know what I'm saying? Like it's off-putting for both teams. At this point in the season, because again, there's such a discrepancy, not only talent-wise, but just the amount of information you have on an opponent. There's a lot more than there was 10, 15 years ago. I'll grant you that, but it's still a lot of information to process and institute a game plan going into a state with a lot on the line. I mean, one false move is the difference between going to a state championship and going home. You know what I mean? It's,
you got to almost.
The stakes are a lot higher at this point, but all these teams that are in the state semifinals are there for a reason, because they're good. And even if some teams got their doors blown off in the semifinals, doesn't necessarily diminish what they did what they've accomplished to get there. Some of these schools have gotten there for the first time ever. Some of them are back and have a disappointing season. So, happy that all these teams made it, but unfortunately there can only be one winner in these. It's pretty, straightforward, and these teams are the teams that made the fewest mistakes at this point. We're moving on.
And we at this point now, we've only have out of all the teams we cover, and between our conferences, we look at about 30 to 35 teams.
Mm-hmm.
Up until this point, we had one team left standing. They were the Division II Region 6 champion. Avon was the last team standing as far as our coverage is concerned, and Rob, why don't you tell us how they did?
Yeah, we'll skip right into the second quarter, and really Avon in this game, they went for it on fourth down on more than one occasion here, and in the first half they struggled to get anything going thanks to a good Knights defense. They were down 21-0 at halftime thanks to a personal foul and a late hit. 2 plays before they started to try to get something going. But just after half, it was Joey Lance. He had an opportunity in the end zone on the opening drive here in the second half. He broke wide open. It would have been a 56-yard touchdown. Had a chance to make the catch, and the pass just went through his hands, and he flat out said after the game, I just dropped it, and I had to put it behind me and move on to the next play. But that would have really cut into the Archbishop Hoban lead. The Knights led, 21-0. But he did shake it off, and eventually Avon would strike as Ryan Malloy found Ryan Jones for a 24-yard touchdown. That cut the lead to 14 points. It was 21-7. But on the next play, the Knights would score. And from then on, realistically, the Knights pretty much ran away with it. 7 points is all Avon could muster up in this game. And give credit to Akron Archbishop Hoban. Their defense was outstanding. DeMonte Trey Yanum has offers from Ohio State, Michigan, Notre Dame, and West Virginia. And he ended a drive with an interception in the end zone while covering Joey Lance. And just defensively, one thing that you heard a lot after the game was the Avon coaches and players all saying that give credit to Archbishop Hoban. They prepared really well for this game and found something that worked and went with it. And, Avon ends their season, but they had a great season. I mean, give credit to Mike Elder. Every year, they had that huge loss to Avon Lake during the season. They recovered from that and got stronger and stronger. They really built upon that realistically and, got back to the state semifinal game. Again, they fall 42-7 to the Knights of Archbishop Hoban, but a great season for the Avon Eagles.
For sure. I mean, there's no shame in losing to a 3-time defending state champion in multiple divisions.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a team like Avon, they ran in 2 years in a row. They've run into a buzzsaw in Hoban. Hoban obviously won the state championship last year, and they're, we'll talk about their finals matchup here shortly. But unfortunately, a team like Hoban just reloads every year. They have a sophomore starting quarterback, for heaven's sakes. Avon, as great as they have been in the last couple of years, and they have been great. Unfortunately, they aren't able to get the level of talent all around to defeat a team of the caliber of Hoban, who could arguably win a state championship in any of the 7 divisions.
Mm-hmm.
They could easily win the Division I state championship if they were in Division I.
Absolutely.
I mean, they're one of the top teams in the state, regardless of division. And unfortunately for Avon, they ran into a juggernaut, a 4-year running juggernaut. And unfortunately for them, they've been the sacrificial lamb to them in recent years as well. So sometimes you just run into a better team. See the Cavs in the 80s and 90s against Michael Jordan. See the Browns against the Broncos in the 80s. Sometimes there's just a team that's just better than you are, no matter what you do, and no matter what you have going on. They're just better, and I think that's just what happened here against Hoban.
There's something also to be said for, again, it speaks to the strength of the Southwestern Conference. For 2 years in a row, you have a team make the state semifinals, only to lose to a team that's, again, that goes on to win the state championship in that division. Obviously there's no medals for a moral victory and none of that, but, you look at the road Avon had to travel. They had to overcome a loss early to Avon Lake. They had to go through the Southwestern Conference, which has a myriad of minds to navigate. And then go through, hands down, probably one of the toughest regions in the state to get to the state semifinals, and then face, oh, by the way, the defending state champions, who probably had the second or one of the toughest regions to come through as well. So, again, as we talked on the top of the show here, we're at the point where, again, teams just find a way to win, and Hoban's been there, and Avon's been there, and sometimes, like Ed said, you just run into a team that it's clicking, and Hoban knows how to get to the state finals, and they know how to win. So, Avon, again, this is another thing that Coach Elder can build on and say, look, the expectation now is not to be happy to be in the state semifinals. It's to win the state semifinals and go on and play for a championship. That's I think, if you take anything away from that, is the expectation is no longer to just make it to the state semis or just win the region or just make the playoffs. It's we want titles, and Avon, I think, is set up in the future to compete and be a top team in this area. And again, it comes from that juggernaut of a schedule they play and that league that they play. And I think it speaks volumes to 2 years in a row that the SWC has sent a team to the state semifinals. And, sometimes it works for you, sometimes it doesn't. But the consistency is what I'm impressed with for Avon and really the Southwestern Conference. Every now and then we'll get some. The GCC is well in the Division I. That they represent very well. But to have a team 2 years in a row navigate the same schedule, the same teams, the same region, and lose to unfortunately the same team in the state semifinals is really a testament to how well that program is built over there in Avon, and what their expectations now going forward is no longer we're just happy to make the playoffs. We're looking for titles. We're hunting titles, and I think that's something that Coach Elder and his staff's going to build on. I think a lot of these players are going to come back with that taste in their mouth that they're not satisfied with just making a deep run in the playoffs. They want the title. And we'll see what happens next year. But congratulations to them. They've done everything they could. Unfortunately, like Ed said, he just ran into a buzzsaw, and there's nothing to hang your head about.
Well, and they did see a little bit of the future in wide receiver Joey Lance, who totaled 105 yards in the loss. He led the team with 8 catches for 64 yards. And he had just 20 catches going into the game for 220 yards and 3 touchdowns. In this game, though, he was this team's also the second leading rusher with 11 carries for 41 yards, as Nick Parasek was still nursing that injury. And Parasek entered the game with 1,276 yards and 14 touchdowns on 131 attempts. He had just 1 carry for a loss of 2 yards. Ryan Malloy, the quarterback, is also a senior. But Avon seems to always regroup, and They have a lot of young talent coming up through the ranks, but Joey Lance is one guy that really stepped up in this game and I think showed you a little bit of a glimpse of maybe what Avon has to look forward to next year. So I'm sure they'll reload next year.
Yeah, absolutely. They have a lot. They have a lot to look forward to, especially when you take your one non-conference game and you jump right back into SWC play.
Yeah.
With week 2 as soon as in 2019, and that'll be around the corner before we know it. So, with the win, Akron Archbishop Hoban moves to 14-0.
Wow.
On the season. Rob, who will they be taking on?
This
in
is
the Division 2 state championship.
Is this going to be a great game or what?
This is the dream matchup, ladies
and
and gentlemen.
they're ranked number 3. I can't believe they're number 3. Massillon, Washington comes in this game 14-0 as well. They will take on the number 1 Akron Archbishop Hoban Knights at 14-0.
For recreational purposes only, what do you think the over-under amount of points are going to be in this game?
I'm more concerned about over-under amounts of fights in the stands between these two fan bases, because this is a matchup that they've been talking about and wanting, and now they have it. I mean, and the state title's on the line, and it's at Paul Brown Hall of Fame Stadium.
Tom Benson
Hall of Fame Stadium.
Pretty close, though.
The same thing. In Canton. So, I mean, that's set up for
it's going to be a hell of a
yeah.
match.
Oh, my God.
It's going to be a great game. If we're for recreational purposes, I would set the over-under at 80.5.
Wow. So this is going to be the high school version of the Chiefs and Rams.
Quite possibly.
It's going to be I think it's going to be high scoring. It's going to be a fun game to watch if people want to go see a great game. This is at Thursday, actually, at 7:30. So not your usual Friday or Saturday games here.
And Massillon, Washington, otherwise known as the Massillon Tigers, Chris Spielman, Wheaties Box in the 80s. They were a 41-20 winner over previously undefeated Cincinnati Winton Wood. I'm sorry, no, they were 12-1. My fault. They were the 12-1 Cincinnati Winton Woods. They were the 2009 state champions in Division II. Massillon just ran roughshod over them. They have their skilled athletes are capable of matching up with Hoban's skilled athletes. They were able to successfully defeat the triple option offense that Winton Woods runs. You need athletes to be able to keep pace with them, and they certainly have that. Massillon, Washington is going for their first ever state championship in a tournament format. All of their previous state titles have been poll titles, or quote-unquote mythical titles, if you will. They have not technically earned them through a tournament setting or, if you will, on the field. They've been rated as state champions well throughout the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. This will be their first opportunity to earn a division, a championship on the field, and it gets no better than a matchup against the 3-time defending state champions. Three-time defending state champions in the Archbishop Hoban Knights. Once again, that game will take place Thursday, the 29th, 7:30 p.m. kickoff from Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium. That's where Massillon's arch nemesis, Canton McKinley, plays their home games. And this is going to be a fantastic matchup for that game.
I predict a raucous atmosphere for that game, more so than I think any of the other state title games, simply because of the geography, but also, I mean, we're talking historic teams in the state of Ohio. I mean, teams that, when you talk about Ohio football, Ohio high school football, these are teams that you mentioned: Hoban, Massillon, St. Ed's, St. Ignatius, Cincinnati Xavier, Cincinnati teams, Columbus, Bishop, whatever, Waterson. These are all teams. Sorry, I couldn't think of the Columbus team off the top. But I'm saying these are all teams that, are ingrained in this Ohio high school football, lore. And now you have a lot. Not only are they meeting with something on the line, they're meeting for a championship. You know what I mean? Like, that's storybook. That's movie stuff. Now you hope it's a good game. You hope it's a competitive game. Good luck to both those teams. But yeah, that's going to be a great atmosphere in Canton on Thursday night.
Absolutely. So let's shift over to we'll go to the big school division here. The Division 1, where the first semifinal saw 9-3 Lakewood St. Ed's taking on 9-4 Powell Olentangy Liberty. St. Ed's with a 42-16 thrashing of Olentangy Liberty. They earned a trip to the state championship. They will be looking for their 4th state championship since 2010, their last one since 2015. That game will be played Friday night. It is the feature matchup Friday night. That kickoff will be at 8 p.m. Their opponent between undefeated Cincinnati Colerain and 11-2, and the defending Division I state champion Pickerington Central. Colerain defeats Central 28-14. Central's reign is over as defending champions. Leads us to another tremendous matchup here. Polar opposites, Cleveland / Lakewood versus Cincinnati, which is exactly what you pretty much get with the save for Pickerington Central, of course. Cincinnati versus Cleveland for the state championship taking place in Canton. St. Ed's versus Colerain. Friday night, kickoff at 8 p.m. from Canton Tom Benson Stadium. Colerain is looking for their first state championship since 2004. Whereas this will be their second state championship if they are able to get it done. So
yeah, St. Ed's in the state championship game for the 3rd time in 5 years. And one thing about their team, this playoff run that they're going with, their defense has really stepped up to the point where, and this stat was courtesy of Cleveland.com, this was the 3rd game out of the 4 playoff games that they held opponents to under 20 points. And in this game alone, St. Ed's defensive back Lawson Nash had 4 takeaways in this game, 2 fumble recoveries. One of those was for a touchdown and 2 interceptions. So the St. Ed's defense has really picked up, and of course they're led by on offense their running back Jordan Castleberry, who had another couple touchdowns in this game. St. Ed's is on a roll now after starting the season 0-2, which we all thought that was pretty surprising. They've stormed back and rightfully put themselves back in the place of we expected them to be, and they're going to look to go against a really highly competitive Colerain team. This is going to be a great game, of course. Division I, the big boys here. I think, and maybe I'm a little biased because we're Northern Ohio, but I think St. Ed's is really playing well, really good football right now, and this is what they're meant to do. And I think they're going to have enough, especially on the defensive end, to come away with a victory.
Yeah, I mean, Colerain's run the table up to this point, and their region is certainly not one to overlook at all. Region 4 is extremely competitive. You're looking at they were the number 1 seed in Division 1 Region 4 by a large amount. They had over 11 points higher as far as their current average is concerned over the number 2 seed, which was Mason. And Colerain had to take out St. Xavier, a perennial playoff team. They had to take them out twice. They really haven't seen a close game in the playoffs up to this point, save for the last matchup against the defending state champions, Pickerington Central. They were certainly not willing to give away their state championship very easily. So very, very high-scoring team. The key here is, can St. Ed's continue their progression on defense? Can they hold this high-powered Colerain team to that under 20 mark and give their offense enough time to get going with Jordan Castleberry leading the way from the rushing side and the receiving side? Obviously, Lawson Nash just gave them a ton of opportunities there with all the with his 4 turnovers. I mean, when you give St. Ed's offense 4 turnovers and you convert one of those into a touchdown on its own, very good recipe for success for the Eagles there. So that Colerain will obviously want to limit their turnovers, and this is going to be a great game. And I agree with you, Josh. We've seen St. Ed's, once they get to the state championship game, they generally don't fail. And Coach Lombardo is going to have them ready to play. I think St. Ed's has a pretty good shot at winning their 4th title in 8 years here, or 4th title since 2010.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at St. Edward, they have 3 losses, but look at some of the teams they play in the regular season. I mean, one loss for sure was to Menor, but they recovered in the playoffs and they beat a very good Menor team. And actually, they for the most part dominated in that game. What a recovery for them to take on a good Menor team and just defensively handle them. But now they continue to move on. It seems like they get stronger, and they learn from their mistakes. But they have weapons all around. I mean, we've seen the Eagles have a really good defense, and especially in playoff time. So it's interesting to see how are they going to contain a team like Colerain there.
It's gonna be a great matchup, and once again, that will take place Friday night. It is the feature primetime game, 8 p.m. kickoff. Lakewood St. Ed's versus Cincinnati Coleraine, 8 p.m. Canton, Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium. All right, we'll continue to go down the line here. We do have another local team, one that we don't necessarily cover, but they are in our general vicinity. We do have in the first, and I think Sean can speak with specifically to a little bit better about one of the teams here. The first semifinal saw 12-1 Kettering Archbishop Alter take on 10-3 Norwalk. That game took place last Friday night. Alter with a 34-13 victory over Norwalk. They are going to appear in the state finals again. Their opponent, this was a runaway. A very, very good game here by Chagrin Falls Kenston, the Bombers. They came in this matchup 12-1, taking on 12-1 Columbus Eastmore Academy. A 40-7 whipping of Eastmore Academy. Kenston advances to the state championship game. A battle of 13-1 teams. Kettering Archbishop Alter versus Chagrin Falls Kenston. That game will kick off Friday at 3 p.m. That will be the primer to the 8 p.m. state championship game for Division One. As far as Kenston's concerned, they've had themselves a very, very good season. They just missed the playoffs last year with a very, very good record. They were just happened to be in a very competitive region. This year they were able to get over the hump, get themselves into the playoffs. Unfortunately, they did end the Buckeye season. We were not particularly happy about that from our
because we can't do another Buckeye recap, Rob. Can't do another Buckeye recap. Still not in the playoffs.
You could.
Still not in the playoffs.
Kenston also took away the air horn for the rest of the season, so we're not really.
Yeah, that's disappointing.
But,
thanks, Kenston.
But obviously, for at least for the most of us that are from up here, good luck to the Bombers this week. Sean, what can you tell us about Alter?
Well, I mean, Kettering Archbishop Alter is one of those teams that they've kind of, in my estimation or in my history with them, they've kind of been all over the map as far as divisions concerned. They sometimes are in Division 3, sometimes Division 2, sometimes even Division 4, depending upon their enrollment. One thing that is consistent about all that is in any division that they are in, they are competitive and they go to the playoffs and they go deep in the playoffs and they a lot of times win state championships in those playoffs. Now, Kettering Archbishop Alter is not. They are not a team that is intimidated by a lot of people, and I don't think Kenston's one of those teams that's going to intimidate them. I think Kettering Archbishop Alter is one of those teams that they have a game plan going in, and they've been doing it all year, save for one game. But again, they have a plan and they execute it, and that's one of the things that we see in a lot of these teams that are consistently there, is that they don't rely too much on what the other team does. They make sure what they do is perfect, and I think that's the way that Archbishop Alter is going to approach this. Now, Kenston's had a very good season, but I don't believe Kenston has been in this particular environment with so much on the line before. That may be the difference in this game. I think Archbishop Alter, as a program, and as a lot of these seniors and a lot of these juniors and underclassmen, it's expected that they get there. And then when they don't get there, no matter what the division, that it's considered a failure. So I think you're seeing a team that's a little bit more seasoned as far as the moment's concerned. Now, Kenston, I think, has the opportunity to say, you know what, we got nothing to lose. Everyone's expecting Archbishop Alter to roll us over. Let's go in there and shock the world. And they've been able, and they have the firepower to do that. They've been showing it all season. They showed it in these playoffs that they were able to stop any kind of, really they've been able to stop any kind of defense or any kind of offense that's been thrown at them, whether it's spread, whether it's ball control run, whether it's wishbone, whether it's triple option.
Norwalk's a good team. They're always the Truckers are always there in the playoffs, and they're more of a running team, but they also sometimes balance it out. But they absolutely dominated them. I mean, 34-13 there.
Yeah. But I think
versus a very good Norwalk team.
Yeah, to Ed's point though, when you say Kettering Archbishop Alter's in the state playoffs, I say news and weather at 11. It's pretty standard for them. They get there for a reason. They have a great program. They have a great fan. I mean, it's a lunatic fan base down there for that team.
Now there's a lot of crazy fans. I mean, we've been talking about.
I know.
Massillon.
Yeah.
Archbishop Hoban.
Yeah, I mean, we got some heavy hitters in the playoffs and in the state finals this year, and I think I like Kenston's chances, but I also kind of fall back to Alter's ability to win these big games, and they just seem to find a way to do that.
Kenston will be looking for their first ever state football championship. Alter is looking for their first championship since their Division IV title in 2009, where they went back-to-back from 08 and 09, both in Division IV play. So,
but even so, they've been in state finals and things like that in other divisions. But I'm saying, like, they're not. This is not foreign to them to be in a state final in either Division III, Division IV. I don't think they've ever been Division II. And if they were, it was for 1 or 2 years maybe. But I don't remember them being a Division II team. I think the highest they've ever gotten is Division III.
All right, so once again, that game will kick off Friday, 3 p.m. from Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium in Canton, Ohio. Quickly, we'll go to Division IV. St. Mary Memorial in one semifinal. They were 12-1 going into this game against Cincinnati, Wyoming, 13-0. Wyoming with a 35-14 victory. They advanced to the state championship as an undefeated team. They took on the winner. They will take on the winner of 12-1 Girard down by Youngstown, taking on Newark Licking Valley. Girard wins a shootout, 53-48. One of the rare high-scoring games by both teams that we have seen so far in these semifinal matchups. So this game will take place Saturday night. This will be the primetime game, 8 p.m. kickoff. 14-0 Cincinnati, Wyoming versus 13-1 Girard. We're not going to try to BS you here. We're not the most. We don't know the most about either of these teams.
We don't cover.
We don't particularly cover the Youngstown or the Cincinnati area. But given that Girard and Wyoming put up 90 points between them last week, I can see this being a very high-scoring affair, and we'll see if Girard can bring one home for the Steel Valley area, and if Wyoming can bring one back to Cincinnati. All right, we'll move on. Division 5. We do have a team that's not too far from us.
Orrville.
Orrville, the Red Riders. My college roommate and former football teammate, Chad Teague, and I had a couple other and some other Orrville folks, the Miller brothers. They are a state title contender this year. They were a 38-7 victory winner over Liberty Center last week. Orrville is 12-2 overall. They will take on Johnstown Monroe, a 32-14 winner over Wheelersburg. So we got 13-1 Johnstown Monroe versus 12-2 Orrville. That game will take place Saturday, 3 p.m. from Canton Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium. I understand there will be lots of cowbells down there. I know that because I know that because Teague Chad wrote to the Pro Football Hall of Fame and asked them if cowbells were allowed to be brought into the stadium for this game. So the land of Smuckers and home of Bobby Knight.
I was about to say that,
yes,
actually.
Home of it wouldn't surprise me if Bobby Knight shows up to this game.
That would be awesome if he did.
He does. I think he does maintain somewhat close ties to Orrville. He's one of their favorite sons. Their last state championship was in 1998. Where Chad Teague was he was either a freshman in college or I think he might have been a freshman in high school then. Dan Stoltz was a former kicker for the Ohio State Buckeyes. He had played for Orrville as well back in the day. So good matchup here. Obviously, my allegiance is to Orrville. I want to see them win this game. I'm quite honestly, I'm not sure where Johnstown Monroe is. Are they down by your area at all?
I have no idea.
All right, so
if we're being honest, I have no idea. I couldn't point this out.
They're in the state of Ohio somewhere.
Definitely in the state of Ohio, but I don't know where.
All right, so good luck to Orrville.
Dynamite dropping, Monty.
I'm assuming Johnstown, but again, I could be wrong.
Good luck to both teams. Although quite honestly, I'm pulling for Orrville. All right, we got another more local flavor here in Division 6. Undefeated Kirtland took on undefeated Beverly Fort Fry. Kirtland comes away with a 35-18 victory. That game is played in Massillon-Jackson. They will take on Maria Stein Marion Local. They are both teams at this point are stalwarts.
Yep.
In the in Division 6. Local has, I believe, either won or been in the state championship like the last 7 or 8 years. Kirtland did interrupt that run with a state championship of their own somewhere in that run, but these two teams have just been running roughshod over Division 6 for between 6, 7, whatever, depending on the enrollment.
Yeah.
For years. So Maria Stein Marion Local, a 34-6 winner over Attica Seneca East. So Friday morning, 10 a.m. kickoff. Kirtland 14-0 takes on 13-1 Maria Stein Marion Local.
Congratulations to Maria Stein Marion Local. I know they're playing for my old football coach Dan Toby, who passed away this year. I know that's been a big thing with them about their title, and they're dedicated that. So, unfortunately, I know we talk Kirtland and they're close to us, but my allegiance lies Marion Local just because of what they're playing for. But I will say this: I expect that to be a pretty low-scoring game. Believe it or not, I know these teams have put up points in their state semifinals. They put up points. But I think you're looking at two teams that have, like you said, rode roughshod over Division 6 most of the year, and I think
they did have a tough game against Mogadore, 20-14.
Okay, so
in the playoffs.
How about Kirtland or
Kirtland?
Yeah, Kirtland had. Yeah.
But I'm saying,
yeah,
these
Marion
teams,
Stein you're talking
yeah,
about.
these teams are used to putting up points. I think this is going to be more of a low-scoring game. I wouldn't be shocked if this game was 20-14, maybe even 14-7, something low scoring, just because I think these teams are so familiar with each other, having played each other in the past, but also having tape and understanding the philosophies on both sides. I don't think there's a lot of surprises that neither of these teams know or don't know, that I should say. So I think you could conceivably see this being a very low scoring game because there's not going to be a lot of tricks. The only thing that may score is somebody making a mistake or a turnover or something like that.
And Kirtland run, Coach Tiger Laverty for Kirtland, they run a very run-based offense. And I agree with your assessment with a potential defensive battle here. Mm-hmm. Kirtland, 18 points is the most that they've given up in a game this year. Fort Fire was able to put up 18 points on them. Before that, it was Mogadore who put 14 on them. And it required a last-second touchdown by Kirtland to get past Mogadore in the regional finals. They fared a little bit better against Fort Fry. And listen, there's not much more you can say about this game. They just line it up and see who wins. It's gonna be a very, very good matchup. Once again, that will be Friday morning at 10 a.m. from Canton. 14-0 Kirtland taking on 13-1 Maria Stein Marion Local. Last and certainly not least, these small school divisions, Division 7. We saw in the first semifinal Fort Loramie taking on Macomb. Macomb with a 28-14 victory. They advanced to the state championship game. They are 13-1 overall. And they will play the winner of Gloucester Trimble and Cuyahoga Heights. We alluded to this game a little bit earlier here. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, Cuyahoga Heights literally ran into a buzzsaw that passed 0 times, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. Actually, they were run over by that buzzsaw, I think would be the more apt analogy there. I mean, they ran into Gloucester Trimble has been running this wishbone offense, and it works. They had 3 guys with over 100 yards rushing. 3 guys over 100 yards rushing. Now, to Cuyahoga Heights' credit, they had this game tied up in the third quarter, 14-all. But they did the one thing you can't do in the playoffs. You cannot turn the ball over. They turned the ball over 5 times in this game.
Yikes.
3 of those led to touchdowns for Gloucester Trimble. So you're essentially spotting a team 21 points. Now, I'll give a lot of credit to the Cuyahoga Heights team. From all indications, if you want to read the article by Matt Gould on Cleveland.com, it's a fantastic article. But what I'm gleaning from that was that this Cuyahoga Heights team, this program really has turned around. They are understanding they're a small school, but they're going to be a powerhouse school in this area, I think, for a long time, because they got to the state semifinals with only 6 returning seniors on this class. So you talk about a team that's built for next year. This is that team. Their starting quarterbacks coming back, their receivers, running backs coming back, most of their offensive lines coming back. This is going to be a team in Division 7 I don't think a lot of teams are going to want to play. I think this year was something that, again, they made it. This was their, I think, 3rd straight state semifinal appearance. Yep. They were looking for their 3rd straight state final appearance, but unfortunately, Gloucester Trimble just ran their team to perfection, but they also capitalized on mistakes. And at this point in time, when all things being equal, it's those mistakes that are going to spell the difference between winning and losing, and that's what happened here. The Trimble ended up beating Cuyahoga Heights 47-21, but again, a lot of this was, I think, self-inflicted. But again, if you give a team that's on a run like that can run their offense, that takes not only has big play potential, but also can grind the clock to a halt and take a lot of time of possession, you're not going to find a lot of success. And you can't give them 5 extra possessions. That's exactly what they did. They gave Gloucester Trimble 5 extra possessions, and they saw that 3 of those turned into points.
Yeah, absolutely. Cuyahoga Heights had made it to the state championship game in 2 different divisions the last 2 years, and they just weren't able to seal the deal.
Yeah.
And you spoke to it perfectly. A team like Trimble, who, I think the offensive coordinator for the Browns, Freddie Kitchens, joked about running the wishbone in the pros.
Yeah.
I mean, he did it to some level of success when they did it, a couple weeks ago against the Falcons. But this is what Trimble does, and it's something that permeates through the entire youth program, I have to imagine, down there. So by the time you get to the varsity level, you know what you're doing,
right?
And you're a quarterback. You're not passing the ball. Nope. You're running the ball.
If you're passing the ball, something's gone horribly wrong in the run game.
Yes, absolutely. So, Cuyahoga Heights, over the last decade or so, they've had unprecedented success.
Mm-hmm.
They've battled it out against a lot of small stalwarts around this area in Mogador and Kirtland.
Mm-hmm.
And once they've been able to either get past those or avoid them in the playoffs altogether, they've been able to make these runs.
Mm-hmm.
They in 2016 they lost to the aforementioned Maria Stein Marion Local, very close game. Last year they lost to Minster in Division 7.
Another stalwart out of the southern area, Dayton or Cincinnati. I mean, yeah, I agree with you, Ed. This Cuyahoga Heights team has just been on a run, and like I said, they only had 6 seniors for this year's team. So everyone's coming back.
Well, in Cuyahoga Heights, I mean, you look at during the regular season. I mean, they lost to Kirtland pretty bad, but they went through and got on a big win streak before they lost in the playoffs here. Where in the playoffs, they really weren't challenged too much other than a 35-20 East Canton gave them a 21-6 game. But for the most part, I mean, Cuyahoga Heights held their own. They lost 2 games during the regular season, one being Kirtland. So. Always a good team. Seems like the last few years they've definitely been there, and they still had a very, very impressive 11-3 record this year. So, congratulations to the Redskins of Cuyahoga Heights on a fine season.
And Trimble will be looking for their first state championship in football. Macomb will be looking for their second state championship, their first championship being back from 1983 in the
great year.
And this is before they had Division 1, 2, and 3. It was Class A was the division back then. So it was Class. There was the small school division back in the 80s, Class A. So very, very good matchup coming up here. So that wraps it up so far. That wraps it up for us as far as our state semifinal coverage. We do have we have 3 local teams still in the area that are locally covered by the teams up here, by the groups up here. We have Massillon, we have Orville also in the running here. Sean has a rooting interest as well with the
Maria Stein
Marion Local. So we're gonna have lots of great matchups here. If you're a fan of high school football, go to the OHSAA website.
Mm-hmm.
Check out. We've gone over the times of the games. They're certain. You can get all day packages. You can get all 7-game packages. Lots of restaurants around the area.
Yeah, it's a great place.
Go to Lakewood on Friday night. I'm pretty sure they'll have that St. Ed's game on there. I don't know.
If it's
don't go to the games and go to Lakewood.
Go to the bars.
They might have the game on. Or if you're a crazy fan, as Sean has hinted, go to Tom Benson Stadium. That's where all the crazy fans go to watch these games.
I didn't say they were crazy. I'm saying these are
fanatical fans.
Fanatical fans. Thank you. Crazy implies that they have malicious intent. These are just avid fans.
They love the game of football. And they want to have some fun.
That love their hometown team or love their alma mater.
That's right.
I'll tell you what. In 2010, I think it was in 2010, I went down to Canton for the Friday games with some members of the coaching staff that I was on at the time, and I'll tell you what, that was a good time. We got down there for the morning game, saw the went back and forth. I think they were still going back and forth between Canton and Massillon. That was a good time, and you see a lot of good football. You see a lot of different types of football. When you see these small schools play, they have maybe 20 to 30 players on their team. They're all going back and forth. And then when you look at Division II, I would say maybe between 3, 2, and 1, they're mostly two platoon. They're one-way players. They're specialists. You get to see a little bit of every type of football if you happen to go down and watch those games over the course of the weekend.
Well, I mean, you're going to see the best players and best teams out there now play in this game. But also Tom Benson Stadium, that's newly renovated. They did a great job, putting everything together up there. Tom Benson has donated a lot of money, up there to really bring back. Because, I mean, we remember that stadium. I mean, we had some summer leagues up there for Brunswick football that we played in. And just the stadium looks incredible now. It's right by the Football Hall of Fame. I mean, there's a lot to do around that area. Like you said, there's restaurants. But if you want to see some great high school football in the state of Ohio, you're going to want to go see these games. I think it's going to be fun. It always is a good time up there. So go check it out and tell them Josh Jeffy sent you.
Will do.
That's it, boys.
But, guys, any last thoughts tonight on some of these games? We went over, I mean, Ed, great job on breaking it down. Sean, with some of the stats and some of the great statistics.
Dynamite production.
That's
as
right.
always.
That wasn't me.
Oh.
That was not me.
Ed was trying his hand in production.
Josh just cannot imitate Shaggy enough on this one.
Okay.
I'll admit to it. That was my computer went rogue there for some reason.
That's all right.
Yeah, Sean.
It's excited.
Just keep watching, enjoying the L for the fantasy week, while Ed keeps polishing.
Climbs his back way. The champ climbing, scratching, and clawing his way back into the thick of things.
Listen,
nobody knows what we're talking about, but it's
all
fantasy
I need
football.
is Corey Davis to just fumble or not play, but I've already lost.
That's all right. You never know what can happen.
No, I do know it can happen. I don't think he can lose the points he's already got, so I lost.
He could. All right. Guys, great job tonight. Any last thoughts before we shut down this show?
Yeah, I don't like the fact that Ed brought the belt over to rub in my face.
Well, as it happens, we're going to end the show with this song. This one goes out to Ed Dick.
Here it is.
Let's see if we can get it to play maybe.
Fantastic.
Here we go. I got it.
Wait, Ed threw down the headphones and he's walking around the room. And now he's standing on Josh's couch with the belt over the shoulder.
I loathe the fact
And
that
Sean hits him with a chair. Boom! Oh, no! It's carnage! Right. For people that think we're a little nuts, that's because we might be.
That's all right. We'll get another
have
song
fun.
in there. We're going to get another song in real quick, so let's just waste a little more time because I am
If you're already tuned up by now.
I am enjoying
We're going to
this.
lose our one guy listening.
Add SOT Podcast on Twitter, sportsotapodcast.com, neosportsinsiders.com for some high school football coverage. Go to our YouTube page where we archive all of our shows, interviews, and much, much more. And we're on Instagram and Facebook as well.
Yes, and just a reminder, we will be back next Monday to recap the state championship games. As always, our show will begin at 7:30, and you can tune in live right here on Mixlr.
Everybody, good luck to the teams and players still in the playoffs. Have a great week, everyone. Go check out the games Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Oh, my God.
For Ed Dick, Sean Duffy,
Not dead yet, boys.
You better
Not
do this
dead
when
yet.
I win the belt, by the
Josh Jeffy.
Here's the thing. I'm not going to take it nearly as hard as you are.
way. You should.
I'm Rob Troutman. Have a great week, everyone. We'll see you next
Bye.
Monday night. See ya.